You're sitting across from someone you trust. The conversation feels normal, safe even. But something is happening beneath the surface, something you can't quite name. A subtle shift in the air. A flicker of unease in your chest. You tell yourself it's nothing. You're overthinking. You're being paranoid. But here's what you don't know yet. Your instincts are screaming at you for a reason. Because right now, in this very moment, your mind is being reshaped. Your reality is being rewritten. And the person sitting across from you knows exactly what they're doing. Your mind is not entirely your own. I've spent years studying the architecture of manipulation, the invisible blueprints that certain people use to dismantle your sense of self. I've interviewed victims who didn't realize they were victims until years after the damage was done. I've analyzed case files of relationships that looked perfect from the outside but were psychological war zones behind closed doors. And I've learned something that will change the way you see every interaction for the rest of your life. Psychopaths don't just hurt people. They play games. 17 specific games, to be exact. Games so subtle, so perfectly designed, that by the time you realize you're playing, you've already lost. This is happening to someone you know right now. Maybe it's happening to you. The most dangerous predators don't look dangerous. They don't wear masks or hide in shadows. They sit next to you at work. They sleep beside you at night. They call you their best friend. And they're running psychological experiments on you every single day, documenting your reactions, adjusting their approach, perfecting their control. The question isn't whether you've encountered someone like this. The question is, how long have they been playing you before you started paying attention? Let me take you somewhere. It's a Tuesday evening. A woman named Sarah is making dinner while her partner, Mark, sits at the kitchen table. She mentions that she's thinking about taking a weekend trip to visit her sister. Mark doesn't look up from his phone. He says, almost casually, "That's interesting. I thought you said last month that you never wanted to see her again after that fight you had." Sarah stops chopping vegetables. Her mind rewinds. Did she say that? She remembers being upset with her sister, but did she really say never? Mark continues, his voice smooth and reasonable. "I'm not judging. I just think it's weird how you change your mind about people so quickly. It's a pattern with you." Sarah feels something cold settle in her stomach. Is it a pattern? Is she unreliable? She can't remember exactly what she said. The doubt creeps in like smoke under a door. She tells Mark maybe she'll wait. Maybe she's being impulsive. Mark smiles and tells her he's just looking out for her. He loves her. He doesn't want her to make decisions she'll regret. This is called gaslighting. And it's more common than you think. What just happened wasn't a simple disagreement. It was surgical. Mark took Sarah's memory, questioned it, attached it to a character flaw, and then positioned himself as her protector. He made her doubt her own mind. And here's the terrifying part. Sarah will do this to herself now. Every time she tries to trust her own perception, she'll hear Mark's voice. It's a pattern with you. The psychopath doesn't need to be in the room anymore. They've installed themselves in your head. Has anyone ever made you question something you knew was true? Has anyone ever told you that you're too sensitive, or remembering it wrong, or always dramatic? Stop right now and think, who does this to you? Because gaslighting isn't a single lie. It's a systematic erosion of your reality. It starts small. I never said that. You're remembering it wrong. That never happened. And it builds. Day by day, conversation by conversation, until you're apologizing for things you didn't do and doubting memories you know are real. The psychopath's goal isn't to win an argument. It's to make you stop trusting yourself entirely. Because once you can't trust your own mind, you'll have to trust theirs instead. Here's how you recognize it. Pay attention to the aftermath of conversations. Do you walk away feeling confused? Do you find yourself constantly explaining your reality to someone who keeps reframing it? Do you feel crazy? That feeling isn't an accident. It's the point. Here's how you defend yourself. Document everything. Write down conversations immediately after they happen. Date them. When someone tries to rewrite history, pull out your notes. Watch what happens. A normal person will say, "Oh, I misremembered." A gaslighter will escalate. They'll attack you for keeping notes. They'll call you paranoid. They'll make the documentation itself seem like proof that you're unstable. And that's how you know. That's your confirmation. Your mind is not entirely your own. But that's not the worst part. Because while gaslighting dismantles your reality, there's another game being played simultaneously. And this one feels like love. Let me tell you about James. He met someone at a conference. Her name was Rachel, and within 48 hours, James felt like he'd known her his entire life. She texted him constantly. She remembered every detail he shared. She told him he was different from everyone else, that she'd never connected with someone this deeply, that she'd been waiting her whole life for someone who understood her. James felt chosen. Special. 3 weeks later, they were inseparable. Rachel wanted to see him every day. She introduced him to her friends. She talked about their future together. James had never felt so wanted, so completely seen. And then in week 4, Rachel disappeared. No texts. No calls. James panicked. Had he done something wrong? When Rachel finally responded 2 days later, her message was cold. I just need space. You're being too intense. James spent the next 3 weeks trying to figure out what he'd done wrong. He replayed every conversation. He apologized. He gave her space. And then Rachel came back. Just as suddenly. Just as intensely. She said she'd been scared of how much she felt for him. She said she was sorry. She said she loved him. And James felt relief flood through him like a drug. They were okay. They were better than okay. Until 3 weeks later, when Rachel disappeared again. This is called intermittent reinforcement. And it's the same technique casinos use to create gambling addicts. What Rachel did wasn't love. It was programming. She flooded James with attention and affection, love bombing, to create an emotional high. Then she withdrew it suddenly, creating panic and withdrawal. Then she returned, and James felt the high again, but stronger this time because of the fear he'd just experienced. His brain was being trained. The unpredictability was creating an addiction. He wasn't in love with Rachel. He was addicted to the chemical cocktail his brain released when she came back. Think about this right now. Is there someone in your life who makes you feel incredible one day and abandoned the next? Someone whose attention feels like oxygen? Someone you're constantly trying to win back even though you haven't done anything wrong? Because intermittent reinforcement is devastatingly effective. It keeps you destabilized, always reaching, always hoping that if you just do the right thing, say the right thing, become the right thing, you'll get back to that initial flood of love and attention. But here's the truth, you never will. Because it was never real. It was bait. The psychopath showed you paradise just long enough for you to become obsessed with getting back to it. And now you'll do anything they want because you're chasing a feeling they manufactured and control. Here's how you recognize it, the pattern. Intense affection followed by sudden coldness. Promises followed by withdrawal. Closeness followed by distance. Over and over. If you're constantly confused about where you stand with someone, that confusion is the point. Here's how you defend yourself, break the cycle. Recognize that someone who truly values you doesn't need to withdraw affection to keep you interested. Real love is consistent. Real care is stable. When you spot the pattern, you stop participating. You stop chasing. You stop believing that the high will come back if you just try harder. Because the high isn't real. The withdrawal is the truth. Your mind is not entirely your own. Now imagine this. Your work. You've been collaborating with a coworker named David for months. You trust him. You share your ideas with him. You ask for his input. One day, you pitch a project in a meeting, a project you and David developed together. David sits quietly while you present. But when your boss asks questions, David suddenly jumps in. He says, "Actually, I've been thinking about this for a while. I'm glad we're finally on the same page about implementing my approach." Your boss looks impressed. Looks at David. You feel something crack inside your chest. You try to speak up, but David is already moving forward, reframing your ideas as his own, and your boss is nodding, taking notes, crediting David. After the meeting, you confront him. David looks confused. Hurt even. He says, "I thought we were a team. Why are you being so territorial? I was trying to help you. I thought you wanted this project to succeed." And suddenly you're the problem. You're the one being petty. You're the one making it about ego instead of teamwork. This is called DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. And it's one of the most psychologically destabilizing games in the entire playbook. Watch what just happened. David stole credit. You called him out. He denied it, attacked your character, and flipped the situation so that now he's the victim of your accusations and you're the aggressor. You walked into that conversation knowing you were wronged, and you walked out apologizing. That's not an accident. That's strategy. Has anyone ever hurt you and then made you feel guilty for being hurt? Has anyone ever wronged you and then convinced you that bringing it up makes you the villain? Let that sink in. Because DARVO works by exploiting your sense of fairness. You're a reasonable person. You second-guess yourself. You don't want to be unfair or cruel. The psychopath knows this. So when you confront them, they don't defend themselves. They attack. They make you defend yourself instead. They turn your accusation into evidence of your dysfunction. And before you know it, you're apologizing for being upset about something they did to you. Here's how you recognize it. Pay attention to how confrontations end. Do you walk away feeling like somehow you're the bad guy? Do you find yourself apologizing for bringing up someone else's behavior? Do you feel guilty for having boundaries? Here's how you defend yourself. Hold the line. When someone flips the script, name it. Say out loud, I came here to discuss your behavior. Now you're attacking mine. That's not going to work. Don't let them change the subject. Don't defend yourself against their counterattacks. Stay focused on the original issue. A healthy person will hear you. A manipulator will escalate. And that escalation is your answer. Your mind is not entirely your own. Let me tell you about Maria. She had a close friend named Karen. They'd known each other for years. But lately, something felt off. Karen would tell Maria things that other friends had supposedly said about her. I probably shouldn't tell you this, but Lisa said she thinks you've been acting weird lately. Maria would feel hurt, betrayed. She'd pull back from Lisa. Then Karen would do the same thing with another friend. Don't say I told you, but Tom thinks you're being too sensitive about everything. Maria started feeling isolated, paranoid, like everyone was talking about her behind her back. The only person who seemed to have her back was Karen. The only person she could trust was Karen. And slowly, without realizing it, Maria stopped talking to everyone else. It was easier, less painful. She had Karen. That was enough. Until one day, Maria ran into Lisa and Tom at a coffee shop. They seemed genuinely happy to see her. They asked where she'd been. They said they missed her. And Maria realized, with a cold, sinking horror, that they had no idea what Karen had told her. They'd never said those things. Karen had made it all up. This is called triangulation. And it's how psychopaths isolate you from everyone who might help you see the truth. Triangulation works by inserting the manipulator into every relationship you have. They control the information flow. They tell you what other people think. They tell other people what you think. They create conflict where none existed. And they position themselves as the only person you can trust. It's brilliant, really. Socially devastating, but brilliant. Because once you're isolated, once everyone else is painted as unreliable or hostile, the psychopath becomes your only reality. Think carefully. Is there someone in your life who always seems to be reporting what other people say about you? Is there someone who creates drama between you and others, then comforts you when you're upset? Because triangulation isn't just gossip. It's strategic isolation. The goal is to make you dependent on the manipulator's version of reality. To make you doubt everyone else. To cut you off from outside perspectives that might help you see what's happening. And here's what's particularly insidious. The manipulator usually plays the role of your protector. They're the one warning you. They're the one looking out for you. They're the one who cares enough to tell you the truth. Except none of it is true. It's all designed to trap you. Here's how you recognize it. Verify independently. When someone tells you what another person said, go directly to the source. Don't accuse. Just check. Say, hey, I heard you had some concerns about me. Want to talk? Watch how fast the triangulation falls apart. Watch how the manipulator reacts when you start fact-checking their reports. Here's how you defend yourself. Refuse to participate. Don't listen to secondhand information. Don't relay messages through the triangulate. Communicate directly. Build relationships that don't require a middleman. The manipulator's power disappears the moment you start verifying their stories. Your mind is not entirely your own. But wait, because there's a game even more subtle than triangulation. A game that doesn't require the manipulator to say anything at all. Picture this. You're in a relationship. Things have been tense. You try to talk to your partner about it, but they shut down. They won't engage. They won't fight. They just go silent. Days pass. You apologize, even though you're not sure what you're apologizing for. You try to fix things. You reach out. You ask what's wrong. Nothing. Just cold, impenetrable silence. You start panicking. You start overanalyzing every interaction. What did you do? How can you make this right? The silence stretches on. 3 days. 4 days. A week. You're going crazy. You're checking your phone constantly. You're replaying conversations in your head. You're drowning in uncertainty. And then, just when you can't take it anymore, your partner responds. Casually. Like nothing happened. They say, I just needed time to think. They don't explain. They don't apologize. They act like you're being dramatic for being upset. And you're so relieved that they're talking to you again that you don't push. You just feel grateful that the silence is over. This is called the silent treatment. And it's psychological torture disguised as emotional space. The silent treatment isn't healthy boundary setting. It's not taking time to cool down. It's weaponized absence. It's a punishment designed to create panic and compliance. The psychopath knows that uncertainty is more painful than conflict. They know that your mind will spiral without information. They know that by the time they come back, you'll be so desperate for resolution that you'll accept anything. You'll apologize for things you didn't do. You'll compromise on boundaries you shouldn't compromise on. You'll do whatever it takes to avoid experiencing that silence again. Has anyone ever shut you out completely and made you feel like you had to earn your way back in? Has anyone ever used silence as a weapon? Because the silent treatment works by exploiting your attachment. Your brain interprets silence from someone you care about as a threat to your survival. It creates genuine distress, anxiety, fear. And when the person finally returns, your relief is so overwhelming that you associate them with safety, even though they're the ones who created the danger in the first place. You're being trained. Trained to fear their absence. Trained to do anything to prevent it. Here's how you recognize it: the pattern of withdrawal and return. The lack of communication about why they're silent. The refusal to engage in resolution. The expectation that you'll just accept their return without accountability. Here's how you defend yourself. Set the boundary early. Say once, clearly, I'm willing to give you space if you need it, but I need to know when you'll be ready to talk. If I don't hear from you by this time, I'm going to assume this relationship is over and act accordingly. Then follow through. Don't chase. Don't beg. Don't give the silence power. A healthy person will respect the boundary. A manipulator will escalate or disappear entirely. Either way, you have your answer. Your mind is not entirely your own. Now let me tell you about something even more insidious. Something that happens so gradually you don't notice until you're already trapped. You have a friend. Let's call her Jenna. Jenna is going through a hard time. She calls you crying. You comfort her. She needs advice. You give it. She needs help moving. You help. She needs money. You lend it. Months pass. The pattern continues. Jenna is always in crisis. Always needs something. And you're always there because that's what friends do. But slowly you start noticing something. Jenna never asks about you. When you try to share your own problems, she listens for about 30 seconds before redirecting the conversation back to herself. When you accomplish something, she finds a way to diminish it or make it about her struggles. When you set a boundary, tell her you can't help this time, she gets hurt. Wounded. She says things like, I thought you cared about me. I guess I was wrong. And you feel guilty. Terrible. So you help. Again. And again. Until one day you realize you're exhausted. Resentful. Trapped in a friendship that flows in only one direction. This is called playing the victim. And it's one of the most emotionally draining games in the entire arsenal. The perpetual victim isn't someone who's going through a hard time. They're someone who weaponizes their suffering to control your behavior. They use guilt and obligation as manipulation tools. Every boundary you set is framed as abandonment. Every time you prioritize yourself, you're being selfish. Every time you're not available, you're betraying them. And the really cruel part is that you can't win. If you help, they'll need more help. If you don't help, you're a bad friend. The game is designed to keep you giving while they keep taking. So, listen to your gut. What is it telling you right now? Because playing the victim works by exploiting your empathy. You're a caring person. You don't want anyone to suffer. The manipulator knows this. So they make sure you're always aware of their pain. They make sure you feel responsible for fixing it. They make sure that saying no feels like cruelty. And slowly, your entire relationship becomes about managing their emotions, solving their problems, and proving you care. Your needs disappear. Your boundaries dissolve. You exist to serve. Here's how you recognize it: the imbalance, the one-sidedness, the guilt that follows every boundary, the crisis that always seems to escalate right when you try to pull back. Here's how you defend yourself: test the relationship. Share a problem. See if they show up. Set the boundary. See if they respect it or weaponize it against you. A real friend will understand. A victim player will make it about them. They'll be hurt that you doubted them, offended that you're not focusing on their needs. And that reaction is your evidence. Your mind is not entirely your own. Let me take you somewhere darker. You're in a meeting at work. Your boss, Michael, is presenting a new project. It's failing. Everyone knows it's failing. Michael designed it. Michael implemented it. Michael pushed it through despite concerns. But in this meeting, Michael is explaining that the project is failing because the team didn't execute his vision properly. He's looking at you, at your coworkers. He's saying, "I gave you clear instructions. I don't know why this is so hard for you to understand." You're stunned. The instructions weren't clear. He changed them 3 times. You flagged problems weeks ago, and he dismissed them. But now he's standing there, calm and confident, blaming the entire team for his failure. And here's the worst part. Some people in the room are nodding. They're accepting it. They're internalizing the blame. Because Michael is so certain, so authoritative, that it's easier to doubt yourself than to doubt him. This is called projection. And it's how psychopaths make you carry their shame. Projection is the process of taking your own flaws, failures, and darkness and putting them on someone else. The cheating partner who constantly accuses you of cheating. The liar who calls you dishonest. The manipulator who says you're manipulative. They're not confused. They're not mistaken. They're offloading. They're making you hold the weight of what they've done so they can walk around feeling clean. Has anyone ever accused you of something they were actually doing? Has anyone ever made you feel guilty for their behavior? Pay attention to this. Because projection is particularly dangerous because it creates confusion. You start defending yourself against accusations that don't make sense. You start wondering if maybe they're right. Maybe you are the problem. Maybe you are the one who's manipulative, selfish, cruel. The psychopath doesn't just want to avoid responsibility. They want you to take it. They want you to believe you're the monster so they can continue being one without consequence. Here's how you recognize it. The accusations don't match your behavior. They feel like descriptions of the accuser. When someone constantly tells you who you are, listen to whether they're actually describing themselves. Here's how you defend yourself. Don't defend. Don't engage with the accusation. Don't try to prove you're not what they say you are. Just observe. Say, "That's interesting that you see it that way," and walk away. Watch how uncomfortable they get when you don't absorb their projection. Watch how hard they push to make you take it. Your mind is not entirely your own. Now imagine you're in a relationship. You express a need. You say, "I feel hurt when you cancel plans last minute." Your partner responds immediately, "So you're saying I'm a terrible person? You're saying I do everything wrong? I try so hard, and it's never enough for you. You're so ungrateful." You're suddenly defending yourself. You're suddenly explaining that's not what you meant. You're suddenly comforting them about the criticism you never actually made. What just happened? You tried to express a boundary, and now you're consoling them about their hurt feelings. This is called guilt tripping. And it's how manipulators turn your needs into attacks on them. Guilt tripping is the art of reframing any boundary or criticism as evidence that you're cruel, ungrateful, or unreasonable. The manipulator doesn't address your concern. They make you feel bad for having it. They shift from the content of what you said to the character assassination of why you said it. And suddenly, you're not discussing your hurt. You're managing theirs. You're apologizing for bringing it up. You're promising to be more understanding, more patient, more grateful. Your need disappears. Their victimhood takes center stage. Think about this right now. Who in your life makes it impossible to express needs without feeling like a villain? Because guilt tripping works by weaponizing your conscience. You don't want to hurt people. You don't want to be unreasonable. The manipulator exploits this. They make sure that every time you advocate for yourself, it feels like an attack on them. Every boundary feels like betrayal. Every need feels like selfishness. And over time, you stop having needs. You stop setting boundaries. You stop advocating for yourself at all. Because the cost is too high. The guilt is too heavy. Here's how you recognize it: the deflection. The immediate shift from your feelings to theirs. The exaggeration of what you said. The implication that expressing a need is equivalent to cruelty. Here's how you defend yourself: hold the boundary. Don't get pulled into defending your character. Don't comfort them for feeling bad about your boundary. Say, "I understand you're upset, but my need still stands." Repeat it as many times as necessary. A healthy person will hear you eventually. A guilt tripper will escalate. They'll cry harder. They'll get angrier. They'll tell you that you're cold, heartless, selfish. And that escalation is your proof. Your mind is not entirely your own. Let me tell you about Alex. Alex had a partner named Morgan. Morgan had a terrible childhood. Morgan would tell Alex stories about the abuse, the neglect, the trauma. Alex felt compassion. Deep, genuine compassion. So when Morgan would get angry, when Morgan would lash out, when Morgan would say cruel things, Alex would think, "They've been through so much. I need to be patient. I need to be understanding." And Alex would absorb it. The anger, the cruelty, the blame. Because Morgan had an excuse, a reason, a story that made Alex feel guilty for expecting better treatment. Years passed. Alex's own needs were never met. Alex's own pain was never validated. Because how could Alex complain? Morgan had real trauma, real suffering. Compared to that, Alex's hurt seemed small, insignificant, selfish. This is called using trauma as a shield. And it's how manipulators make their past an excuse for present cruelty. Having trauma is real. Having pain is real. But using trauma as a justification for hurting others is manipulation. The psychopath knows that a good person will give them grace, will make allowances, will absorb behavior that would be unacceptable from anyone else. So they tell you their story. They make sure you know how much they've suffered. And then they use that suffering as a free pass to treat you however they want. If you complain, you're insensitive. If you set boundaries, you're not understanding what they've been through. If you leave, you're abandoning someone who's already been abandoned too many times. Has anyone ever made you feel guilty for having standards because of what they've been through? Because this manipulation is particularly effective because it exploits your empathy and your fear of being cruel. You don't want to be another person who hurt them. You don't want to be the one who didn't understand. So you stay. You tolerate. You excuse. And the abuse continues, hidden behind a wall of justified trauma. Here's how you recognize it: the pattern of using past pain to excuse present harm. The expectation that you should tolerate poor treatment because of their history. The weaponization of vulnerability. Here's how you defend yourself. Separate compassion from tolerance. You can have empathy for someone's past and still refuse to accept unacceptable behavior in the present. Say, "I understand you've been through a lot. That doesn't give you permission to treat me this way." Trauma explains behavior. It doesn't justify it. And if someone can't hear that distinction, you have your answer. Your mind is not entirely your own. There's one more game I need to tell you about. And this one might be the most dangerous because it masquerades as care. You're struggling with something. Maybe your mental health. Maybe your weight. Maybe your career. You confide in someone close to you. They respond with concern. Real, genuine seeming concern. They say, "I'm worried about you. I think you need help. I think you're not seeing things clearly." You feel seen. Supported. They offer to help. They offer advice. They offer to manage things for you because you're clearly overwhelmed. You accept. Gratefully. They start making decisions. Small ones at first. What you eat. When you sleep. Who you see. They frame it as helping. As protecting you from yourself. And slowly, so slowly you barely notice, you stop making your own decisions. You stop trusting your own judgment. Because they're the expert. They're the one who sees clearly. They're the one who knows what's best for you. Until one day you realize you've lost yourself entirely. You're a puppet. And they're holding every string. This is called fostering dependency. And it's how manipulators make you need them to function. Fostering dependency works by convincing you that you're incapable of managing your own life. The manipulator positions themselves as savior, protector, expert. They point out your struggles, real or exaggerated, and then swoop in to fix them. And every time they fix something, you lose a piece of your autonomy. Every time they make a decision for you, you lose trust in yourself. Until you can't imagine functioning without them. Until the idea of leaving feels impossible because how would you survive? So, think carefully. Is there someone in your life who makes you feel like you can't function without them? Someone who's always rescuing you from problems they might be creating? Because this game is insidious. It feels like love. It feels like care. The manipulator isn't obviously controlling. They're helping. They're supporting. They're concerned. But pay attention to the direction of the relationship. Are you becoming more capable over time or less? Are you gaining confidence or losing it? Are you growing or shrinking? A person who truly cares about you wants you to become more independent, more confident, more capable. A manipulator wants the opposite. They want you weak. They want you dependent. They want you unable to leave. Here's how you recognize it: the erosion of your autonomy. The constant messaging that you're not capable. The offers of help that come with strings attached. The way they make themselves essential. Here's how you defend yourself, reclaim your competence. Start making your own decisions. Start solving your own problems. Watch how the manipulator reacts when you stop needing them. A caring person will celebrate your growth. A manipulator will sabotage it. They'll create new crises. They'll tell you you're not ready. They'll undermine your confidence. And that's how you know. Your mind is not entirely your own. But here's what you need to understand. These 17 games aren't random. They're not independent tactics. They're a system. A comprehensive psychological assault designed to dismantle your sense of self and replace it with something they can control. The gaslighting makes you doubt your reality. The intermittent reinforcement makes you addicted to their approval. The triangulation isolates you. The silent treatment punishes independence. The victim playing exhausts your empathy. The projection makes you carry their shame. The guilt tripping prevents boundaries. The trauma as shield justifies cruelty. The dependency fostering strips your autonomy. Each game supports the others. Each technique reinforces the rest. And by the time you realize what's happening, you're trapped in a web so complex, so multi-layered, that you can't see where you end and their manipulation begins. You've been played before. You just didn't know it. But now you do. Now you see the patterns. Now you recognize the games. And that knowledge is the most powerful weapon you possess. Because these tactics only work in darkness. They only work when you don't name them. The moment you see manipulation for what it is, the moment you call it by its name, it loses its power. Think about every relationship in your life right now. Not with paranoia. Not with fear. But with clear, honest assessment. Where do you see these patterns? Who makes you doubt yourself? Who makes you feel crazy? Who punishes your boundaries? Who makes you feel guilty for having needs? Who isolates you? Who keeps you destabilized? Who makes you carry their emotions while ignoring yours? You know, somewhere deep inside, you've always known. You just didn't have the language for it. You just didn't trust yourself enough to believe what you were seeing. Here's what I need you to understand. Recognizing manipulation doesn't make you cynical. It makes you safe. Setting boundaries doesn't make you cruel. It makes you healthy. Walking away from someone who plays these games doesn't make you a quitter. It makes you free. The people who need this information most never think it's about them. They assume they'd recognize manipulation if they encountered it. They assume they're too smart, too aware, too strong to fall for these games. But that's the trap. Psychopaths don't target stupid people. They target empathetic people, trusting people, good people, people who see the best in others, people who give second chances, people who believe in redemption and growth, people exactly like you. They're still in your head, but not for much longer, because now you're armed, now you're aware, now you're dangerous to them in the best possible way. You're someone who won't play their games anymore. Someone who recognizes the patterns. Someone who sets boundaries and holds them. Someone who trusts their own reality. Someone who can't be gaslit, isolated, guilt-tripped, or controlled. And they hate that. They hate when you wake up. They hate when you see clearly. They hate when you stop participating in their games. Because their power exists only in your confusion. Their control exists only in your doubt. Take that away, and they're just people. Sad, damaged people playing tricks that don't work anymore. So here's what you do now. You watch. You pay attention. You trust your gut. When something feels wrong, you don't explain it away. You investigate. When someone makes you feel crazy, you write it down. When someone violates a boundary, you enforce consequences. When someone plays a game, you stop playing. You verify. You fact check. You trust but verify. You build relationships based on consistency, not intensity. You value stability over excitement. You choose people who make you feel more like yourself, not less. You walk toward people who celebrate your growth, not people who sabotage it. And when you spot the games, because you will, you'll spot them now, you don't confront. You don't explain. You don't give them opportunities to gaslight you about the gaslighting. You just quietly, calmly, systematically remove yourself from the game board. You go no contact. You gray rock. You become boring, unresponsive, unavailable. You give them nothing to work with. Because here's the truth, you can't fix a psychopath. You can't love them into health. You can't convince them to care. You can't win by playing their game. The only winning move is not to play at all. Your mind is your own again. But only if you protect it. Only if you guard it. Only if you refuse to let anyone else rewrite your reality, erase your boundaries, or drain your soul. You've spent years being shaped by people who had no right to touch you. Years apologizing for things you didn't do. Years doubting perceptions that were accurate. Years carrying shame that wasn't yours. Years playing games you didn't know you were in. That ends now. Not because manipulation stops existing. Not because psychopaths suddenly develop empathy. But because you're awake. And you're staying awake. And anyone who tries to play these games with you from this point forward will find someone very different from the person they expected. They'll find someone who sees them. Really sees them. Someone who recognizes the patterns. Someone who doesn't flinch. Someone who doesn't doubt themselves. Someone who says no and means it. Someone who walks away without looking back. You're dangerous now. Dangerous to everyone who needs you to stay asleep, stay confused, stay compliant. And that's exactly what you should be. So ask yourself, right now in this moment, who's pulling your strings? Who's rewriting your reality? Who's making you doubt what you know to be true? Who's punishing you for having boundaries? Who's keeping you isolated? Who's making you feel crazy? You know their name. You've always known. You just needed permission to trust yourself. Consider this your permission. You're awake now. And they hate that.